Yo, what is happening, you greasy Garchomp? We got some new Journey Together cards revealed, or Battle Partner cards. They'll be getting them over in Japan in their Battle Partner set in about a week, maybe 2 weeks. I actually don't remember. I know it's in January. I don't know if it's next week or the week after, but it's coming up soon. Rotation also happens for them pretty soon. That won't be happening for us for about another 2 months, a little bit over 2 months, actually, quite a bit over 2 months, 2.5 months. Jeez, this always feels the worst. This is the worst time to be a competitive Pokemon TCG player. When Japan gets their January set that we don't get until the end of March, a 2.5 month gap between the set releases is pretty annoying. I feel like every other major set's a little bit less than that. But yeah, the first set of the year always feels really, really bad for the competitive players. But let's go and jump into these new cards here. Anyone who's curious about what site this is that I'm using here, because I haven't used this one too much, so I'm sure some of you are curious about it. It's PokemonProxies.com. And these images here are easy to download and turn into Pokemon proxies. Go check out my video on YouTube if you want to learn how to make paper proxies to use. I got a video here on the YouTube channel that goes over that. But yeah, let's get into these new cards here. There's a lot of cards here that we've already talked about, so we're only going to talk about the new ones, starting up with the Magmortar here with the Magma Surge ability. During Pokemon Checkup, put 3 more damage counters on your opponent's burned Pokemon. So burned isn't a special condition that has been used a whole ton recently, but 3 more damage counters is quite a bit. The attack is nothing special, of course. Fire, colorless, 90 damage. Flip a coin. Why is it flip a coin? This attack already sucks if heads your opponent's active is now burned. What? Like, why are we... Just make it burned, bro. This thing already sucks. Jeez. Sometimes I read some of these cards, and it's like... You could, like... A core part of this card is its ability, right? The only part of this card that is relevant is its ability. The Magma Surge is the only relevant part of this card. And the Pokemon itself doesn't even burn... by itself. It takes 2 fire and a colorless to do 90 damage. Let this thing burn the active Pokemon without flipping a coin. What is going on here? And there's these Magmar as well. Not searchable by Buddy Poffin, which is like the main thing to look at usually with these pre-evolution Pokemon is, does it have 70 or less HP, but not too little HP? We don't want Dragapult to like KO multiple of our basic Pokemon or our evolution Pokemon here. But the Magmar, 80 HP, can't find it with Buddy Poffin, unfortunately. Searing Flame for fire colorless, 30 damage. Flip a coin once again if heads your opponent's active is now burned. It just tilts me that this is a flip a coin. Just let us burn the Pokemon, man. Let us use the Magmortar's ability through the Magmortar and the Magmar. Then we got this Volcanion EX, which will probably be the main way you're going to be burning your opponent's Pokemon if you're going for this Magmortar kind of deck with that Scorching Steam ability. Once in your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you may make your opponent's active Pokemon burn. Quite a bit easier than needing 2 energy or 3 energy, doing 90 damage, and then hoping to burn them with a flip. Just send this to the active, hit him with the Scorching Steam. Despite this thing's existence, though, I still would like the Magmortar to auto-burn the Pokemon here. What is going on? And then the Heat Cycle here for fire, colorless, 160, move energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. So maybe there's some potential here for a Volcanion Magmortar deck. Now, Burned does do 20 damage, and then after they've taken the damage in between turns or during Pokemon Checkup, flip a coin. If they get heads, they heal from the burn. So you'll at least, with 1 Magmortar, be doing plus 50. That's 210. If you have 2 Magmortar, looking at 240 damage. That's not terrible. It doesn't seem like it's enough, though. This is also a basic EX Pokemon with only 220 HP. Doesn't seem like quite enough, but maybe there's something else that could actually work with the Magmortar. Some kind of 1 prize deck. Maybe the Volcanion we could just send into the active to use its ability to burn them, and then we pivot into like a 1 prize Pokemon. The thing with that, though, this thing's got 3 retreat costs, so unless we're playing a ton of switch cards, we'd want to use Latios. That's another bench space that isn't being put towards Magmortar. Maybe Area 0 gets involved at that point. I don't know, but there is an efficient way to burn our opponent's active Pokemon with the Volcanion EX. Got the new Whale Lord here. Nothing super special, though. For 4 colorless energy, it does 50 damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. Looking at 210 if you just fulfill the energy cost with 4 waters. Probably playing it with Baxcalibur, I guess, but it doesn't seem extremely powerful. We got the new Bonet here, which actually pretty powerful attack. It is a powerful attack, but we've seen attacks like this in the past. Actually, recently we've had a Salazzle in format for quite a while that has seen basically 0 play. This attack for a colorless energy, your opponent shuffles 3 cards from their hand into their deck. The Salazzle for 2 colorless energy, so it worked with double turbo energy, said they discard 1 card from their hand, but if you evolved the Salandit into Salazzle this turn, you discard 3 cards from their hand. So we kind of already have this effect in format. It doesn't see any play. The main reason for that is once you kind of handlock your opponent, and there's a couple different ways you could do it with the Salazzle or with this Bonet. You could go play Zerosic. They have to put their hand to 3 cards remaining. Then you Curse Speech, shuffle all those cards back to their deck. You could Unfair Stamp, you could Roxanne, you could Iono, get them to a low hand size to the point where you take their whole hand away. with the Cursed Speech or the attack from the Salazzle. The problem with both of these cards is, how do you win the game from there? Is your follow-up using Spooky Shot for 70 damage? That's not enough. For the Bonet specifically, there wasn't like a good attacking Salazzle after you did the initial handlock Salazzle. But for Bonet, there is the Bonet EX. We could go from handlocking our opponent to then item locking our opponent. Maybe there's something there to work with. I'm not convinced at all, but that's really the problem with these kind of handlock potential decks is after we handlock them, well, what the heck do we do? How do we win the game from there? And the answer is usually you don't have a way to win the game, which means the decks just kind of suck. That's why we haven't seen any play from Salazzle. The Bonet, though, I think there is a little bit more potential. The energy cost is a little bit more efficient in the psychic energy. One retreat cost, then we can pivot into a Bonet EX. There might be something there. We'll see. There's a Metagross here, also pretty bad. Maybe a cool meme deck. Joint Beam, 130 for 2 psychic energy, and then you do 150 more damage if you have a Beldum and a Matang on your bench. So if we got Beldum, Matang, Metagross in the active, and then we can kind of chain it from there. Then they knock out this Metagross. We push up the Matang. We evolve that Matang to Metagross. We bench a Beldum. We evolve Beldum to Matang. We do have Team Evolution in the format. We have the, man, I forget what the card is called. It's the thing that searches for 3 stage 1 Pokemon from your deck. That could be good. It does take 2 psychic energy, so we'd probably have to play this with Xatu as well. So that's going to eat up some of our bench space. But I could see this working in a Xatu style deck, Metagross plus Xatu. Is doing 280 damage enough? I don't think so. I mean, you could play Maximum Belt, so you're doing 330 to KO stuff like Charizard and Dragapult. That is something for sure. But besides that, I mean, I guess like the new EX Pokemon like Zoroark and the Belly Bolt, those all have 280 HP as well. So 280 is still a relevant number with V-Stars rotating when this set comes out. 280 still will be a relevant number for sure. So I don't know, there might be something here. The struggle I see is like going up against stuff like Charizard and stuff like that. You're easily getting one-hit KO'd. It's going to be a struggle for you to get one-hit KOs back. But I don't know, maybe there is something here with a Metagross Xatu deck the more I think about it. All right. Up next, we have Lyan Rock here. When you play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may attach it to 2 Spike Energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. And then for 3 Colors Energy, this attack does 40 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's okay. We'll get the Spike Energy here in just a second. I'll scroll down and we'll take a look at that. It's a very efficient Pokemon, of course, because it sets itself up with its ability. And then, of course, you can do that 40 plus 40 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon, which does synergize with the Spike Energy. Let me go down to the Spike Energy here. Spike Energy says, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. So the question I would have with this would be, what is our initial setup? Get damage counters on our opponent's Pokemon, so that first Grabbing Fan can actually take knockouts. I don't know, maybe we can chain it from there. Honestly, the more I think about this deck, the way it combos with Spike Energy, I'm more intrigued. I'm more intrigued by this for sure, this combination. It's just so self-sufficient. It's like, I mean, yeah, you just, like, once you get going, you're cooking, you're going, right? You can maybe play this with Brilliant Blender to get your Spike Energy in the discard pile. Just kind of like that initial damage to get going feels like the thing we'd struggle with. Also, we'll have a problem if our opponent decides to just gust around our Lyan Rock. If our opponent's like, okay, that's cool, but if I punch your Lyan Rock, then you can KO me with your next Lyan Rock. What if I just gust around your Lyan Rock and you're like, well, please don't do that. Can you please punch my thing with a Spike Energy? So that would be a problem, especially if they're running in between attackers. We could still hit them for 40 with Grabbing Fangs. That would be something we could do. And then next turn, we'll be hitting for 200 damage, but it's probably not quite enough. Yeah, probably not quite enough. So maybe Dusknoir gets involved. You know, Dusclops with 5 damage counters on them. That's pretty solid. Maybe there's something there with Dusknoir, but giving our opponent prize cards in a 1-prize deck kind of takes away our prize advantage of being a 1-prize deck, so that sounds kind of mid. I'm trying to think if there's any other Pokemon in the... Hawlucha exists, but that's a little bit too slow and a little bit too inefficient for like a whole bench space just to put a Hawlucha in play. Do we have like a quick shooting in format right now? Is there something like a quick shooting in Telling? I don't think so. Not that I can think of. Yeah, I don't think so. So, yeah, Lyan Rock seems kind of mid. Could be a cool meme deck, though. Tyranitar. This ability... Is this the best ability ever? This might be the best ability of all time. Of course, it's never quite that simple. You have to have the full package. The ability is broken, but it's a stage 2 Pokemon with 190 HP. And then its attack is kind of mid as well. For a Darken a Colorless Energy 150, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. But the ability, while this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent can't play any item cards from their hand. That's insane. That's really good. Is that literally the best ability of all time? It could be. I can't think of a better ability than Tyranitar's Daunting Stubbornness. Let me know. comment section down below. I'm sure there's other abilities that are comparable in terms of power level. And of course, it isn't just about one part of the card. It's about the whole package. And the whole package does not seem that good, to be honest. Although this ability is so good that I could carry this card to being, I don't know, maybe like a low tier meta deck. If not, it can maybe compete as like a meme deck on the ladder. That is always at least fun to do. So we'll see about it. But yeah, this ability is absolutely broken. Up next, we got Ends Purloin here. Your opponent reveals their hand. Put a card you find there on the bottom of their deck. A little bit of a, I guess, a hand lock attack here. Not bad. And then we've got the Magmortar, basic Pokemon here with the auto heal ability. As long as Pokemon is in your active spot, whenever you attach an energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon, heal 90 damage from that Pokemon. We actually had a card similar to this. It was a Miltank back in the tag team era. I actually played it in a deck. I got second at a regional championships in a Reshizard deck with Miltank, because you could put the Miltank in the active and you could welder to your damaged Pokemon and attach the energy from your hand and like full heal it out of nowhere, which is kind of cool. So it also has a decent attack as well for colorless energy. Draw 2 cards. So there might be some kind of like tank style deck that you could play this with, or even like teching this in something like a Baxcalibur deck, something with a lot of energy acceleration, where in certain matchups, if you're playing up against like a spread matchup, maybe something like a Dragapult or something like that, you can all of a sudden push Magmortar into your active, use Baxcalibur, heal your board. The problem at that point is getting the Magmortar out of your active Prime Catcher switch. We do have tools that can make it work. So this could be a cool tech card for certain decks, for certain matchups that have a lot of energy acceleration, like a Baxcalibur deck. Or maybe we could see some kind of tank deck built around this card as well, in like a Xatu style deck or a Baxcalibur style deck. I'm trying to think of like really tanky Pokemon in my head. Nothing is really coming to mind that would kind of synergize with all those things. So it feels like a little bit more of like a tech style card, but we'll see what the future holds for the Magmortar. I guarantee it'll see play. My prediction is this card will definitely be in top cut of a major tournament at some point in its lifetime in the standard format. So I think it's a pretty safe prediction, though. It's not that too crazy. We got Hop's Corviknight here. Shoot Through is the first attack for a colorless energy, 50 damage. 50 damage to one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. A bench snipe attack. It's pretty weak, and it feels like all the bench snipe attacks that have been coming out recently have felt and seemed pretty weak. We are losing Manaphy. I've been talking about this a little bit on my stream. We're losing Manaphy here to rotation. We haven't seen another bench barrier Pokemon get printed yet. Rabsca, of course, exists in the format, but it's a lot weaker as bench protection because it is an evolution Pokemon. Sure, we have TM Evo in the format, but even that's not super reliable, and not every deck that's not playing Arven but still wants to protect their bench gonna kind of struggle if you don't have like TM Evo, obviously, to get the Rabsca out aggressively. So Rabsca still is an option for some bench protection, but yeah, I think these bench snipe attacks, we're gonna see them be a lot weaker moving forward. I think that's gonna be because they don't plan on printing bench barrier 4.0, 5.0, whatever you want to call it at this point. And it's got the steel wing for 2 metal and a colorless 150. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 60 less damage from attack. So pretty terrible stage 2 Pokemon here in the Hop's Corviknight. Up next, we have a card that I'm pretty excited for. I'm pretty hype on this one. Is the Dunsparce EX. There's a Dunsparce here as well. Trading places, switches Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon for a colorless energy. We do have a free retreat Dunsparce that I don't think rotates. I'm pretty sure it's a silver bordered card. That is one way you can think about rotation coming up here as well. Every card that has a yellow border rotates, and we're going to be silver border on moving forward. But the Dunsparce EX, the reason I think this card is so good is because you can play it in any deck that plays the Dunsparce draw engine, which is 0 decks right now. But in the future, this card could be a reason to play a draw engine with the Dunsparce. Or, because we are, especially with rotation, losing some of our other draw engines, it might force some decks to be built around the Dunsparce draw engine. We're losing Kirlia, we're losing Liepard, we're losing B-Barrel. The B-Barrel is probably the biggest one. We haven't seen a deck playing B-Barrel in a little while, but still a very powerful draw engine nonetheless. Any deck that synergizes best with the Dunsparce draw engine will get to play the Dunsparce EX, and it's that first attack that is a big deal. That adversity tail for a colorless energy to 60 damage times the amount of EX Pokemon in play. Every deck plays EX Pokemon. Some of them, like Raging Bolt, play a lot of EX Pokemon. It wouldn't be bad to have an attacker in your deck that can one-hit KO something like a Raging Bolt for a single energy, which means you can play it in basically any deck as long as you're playing Dunsparce. I don't see any deck going out of their way to be a Dunsparce EX deck or playing like a 2/2 to Dunsparce EX. But if you are playing that to Dunsparce as your draw engine, slotting in 1 to Dunsparce EX most of the time probably is correct. We got the Hops, was it Rookidee and Corvus Squire here? Nothing crazy there. We've looked at the double, we've looked at the cram. They've reprinted Super Potion. It's like the 3rd or 4th reprinting of Super Potion. I'm not mad at it. They're printing a decent amount of healing, I feel like, in this set in general. The Magmortar of the Super Potion. Heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon if you do discard an energy attached to that Pokemon. Some more healing. I don't hate healing. Healing's cool. Tank decks that use a lot of healing are cool. Hops bag. I did predict, especially with the fact that the Hops double exists, I was like, they're going to print some kind of Hops Pokemon search card. I've said this a couple times. Go back. I got the receipts, not on me, but I did say this. And this one is pretty ridiculous. I didn't think they'd print something this powerful, though. I did think there would be some kind of Hops Pokemon search, but this one's kind of absurd. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Hops Pokemon and put them onto your bench and shuffle your deck. Like, what? Why do we need this? What is this? This is just so ridiculous. Like, that's insane. Like, the amount of consistency that this gives you is absurd. It's Battle VIP Pass that isn't limited to your first turn. Sure, it's only for Hops Pokemon, but I mean, Hops eating good after these last couple reveals, to be honest. The Hops deck is definitely going to be, I feel like, a top tier deck for sure. I mean, that's obviously what they want, but I don't know. This feels like kind of over the top. Why can't we all just live off Nest Ball and Ultra Ball? Maybe something like the, I don't know whether Pokemon search cards even exist, to be honest. Yeah, this one is absurd. For sure. I thought it would be something like maybe discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for a Hops card, or like discard a card, search your deck for 1 Hops Pokemon. I guess finding like the Hops evolutions, but I feel like this is more powerful than being able to find your double, because double is the only Hops evolution card. Yeah, like a card that said discard 1 card from your hand, search your deck for a Hops Pokemon. Most of the time you're going to be searching for a basic. Yeah, I don't know. I think seems absurd for sure. Iris's Fighting Spirit. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. Solid draw supporter. Nothing too crazy. Doesn't really it's not really better than Research or Iono for the most part, but not terrible, I guess I would say. Ruffian, discard a tool card and a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Solid niche tech supporter. We've talked about Brock Scouty in the past, and then the new stadium reveal is End's Castle. Each End's Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents, have no retreat cost. Pretty good. Not terrible. Zoroark is a deck that is going to have a lot of liabilities on its bench because you need to bench a bunch of Pokemon in play to be able to use the attacks with the Zoroark. So it makes sense to have a card like this. Like if you play End's Darmanitan in the End Zoroark deck, this thing's got 3 retreat costs, man. What the heck? And you could just play switches, of course, but it'd be nice. It is nice to have your switch card also be a counter stadium and something that could be in play for multiple turns. So definitely a powerful card for the End's deck. And of course, we don't know for sure if this is all of the End's trainer owner cards that we'll see, the owner trainer cards for the owner's Pokemon. We've seen Hop's Bag, we've seen End's Castle, End's Energy Acceleration. Yeah, a little bit for Lily's well, the Lily's Pearl. This isn't specifically for Iono, but this one obviously synergizes with the Iono's Pokemon. And then yeah, Spike Energy we talked about earlier. Seems cool with the Lyan Rock for sure. Is it good with anything else besides that? I mean, Lugia is rotating, so we're kind of running out of special energy acceleration. But I mean, I guess there's other decks that you could maybe play it in at some point. It's one of those things that might pop up. I mean, it's kind of similar to Rocky Helmet, but it's your energy for turn, so it's a little bit more powerful than something like Rocky Helmet. So I could see this being played in some decks in the future for sure. But that's all the new cards. Let me know what you think about them in the comments below. What combos did I miss? What cards? Actually, I talked about like literally every card that got revealed. So I don't think there's any cards I didn't talk about. But yeah, let me know if there's any combos you could think of with some of these cards, like the Bonet, maybe the Volcanion, that I didn't think about. Let me know, comment section down below, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.